And now the spiel. We're speaking with former U.S. Representative Peter Mayer. He voted for Trump's impeachment, but he is now maybe a little bit excited, certainly understanding of Trump's victory. And in talking about the media, he used a phrase, semantic slippage. And for me, this conjured a conversation I had with Manveer Singh. And Manveer Singh talks about factual beliefs and symbolic beliefs. Symbolic beliefs not exactly being we're lying to ourselves, but more the sort of beliefs that we know deep down, or maybe not so deep down, they can't really be proved empirically. The difference in discerning these kind of beliefs is hard. The difference or difficulty in describing them even more so. But I think the election shows that it is incumbent upon us, the news media, to try to convey a world that actually jives with what voters are seeing and hearing. Not because voters are siloed or deceived, but because they're processing lies in more subtle ways than a strict binary. This is hard. When a politician lies, how do you not call him out for his lies? What's the mechanism by which you say, okay, that's a benign lie, that's an inconsequential lie, that's a, dare we say, greater truth? The fact check sites, they're okay at doing this, but they do get things wrong. I think they get things wrong in the same direction. They put a thumb on the scale. And also half the time their ruling is need more context. What doesn't, brother, right? Perhaps we had more context, not just as a fact check, but we could have sentences and they could be arranged in paragraphs and put under alluring but accurate headlines. And we could call this a newspaper. It's tough. I'm saying it's tough. Donald Trump lies. The press is duty bound to chronicle the lies. And it seems the ultimate result is no one cares. And why is that? Are we not the boy who cried wolf, but the boy who cried wolf in a field of wolves, and eventually everyone said, all right, just sidestep the not so dangerous wolves. Maybe Americans are, I don't know, stupid. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe they are amoral. Maybe they're inherently corruptible. Okay, you lie, but give us the tax cuts and it'll all be okay. There is, of course, a section of the audience that is so attracted to the lies, they want to hear it. And also a section that is so into hearing how terrible the lies are and getting outraged about the lies that the purveyors of that content are very much incentivized to keep serving it up in the most dire tones possible. Should there be a way to note or cover his bullshitting as one category of lies, his bluster as another, and his meaningful lies as such? I actually have some answers. I think when a media is so literal and an electorate is not, because people know how to navigate the world and judge others, not merely through literalism. But when that happens and that's the structure, there is a mismatch and it turns the media into less than trusted authorities. It's an important role for the media to be the chronicler of lies and not to give that up. But how you do it and the, dare I say, context around that is important, and it all deserves a rethinking. There's also a bigger question of coverage, or the best way for the media to meet the public at its point of concern, but not to burn credibility or catastrophize everything along the way. And I think what it comes down to is that most mainstream mass, respectable legacy media, you know what I mean, the Times, the Washington Post, the networks, MSNBC, CNN, Atlantic, New Yorker, some websites, some columnists, they have a different orientation than most Americans have. Even most news-consuming Americans, I think these media institutions are very concerned with equity. And I think news consumers, even New Yorker subscribers, are not unconcerned with equity. It's just far down the list of what they turn to the media for. Most people in the media and academia and the world of nonprofits have an equity orientation. They think about it, if not as their first concern, then 1A. They tell themselves what makes them good people, what makes them educated people. But most regular people, which is, say, the voters and the citizens, think primarily of a story or a policy. Does it help me? And then they think, oh, does it hurt others? It would be bad to hurt others. Most people aren't nearly as interested in, does it help me more than it helps some others? And are those others in a class of people that we're told need the most help? People in the class of the oppressed or the discriminated against. They often don't even think of themselves as such. I mean, remember, most Latino men voted for their oppressor, Donald Trump, after all. But the media can't not forefront issues of equity, disparity, and fairness. Fairness as they define it. Most citizens are not driven by punishing programs or ideas that don't help the right people, who someone else defines as the right people. This is what people are asking. Does it help me? Does it help the people I know? Does it help some people I don't know? And does it hurt anyone? That's about the order of real world concerns. People generally just want to be lifted up and helped and aren't really so resentful if others get help that is more than they're getting, or a slightly bigger lift, or others get the same size lift, but we're told they needed a bigger lift. With the media, this orientation, this value system that primarily asks and considers it a scandal if an oppressed or downtrodden class or race is being disproportionately not lifted up, this is rife. This is not an orientation that the vast majority of Americans have. We do get sad if there are victims, but we're not particularly exercised by supposed examples of inequality. And I think the news media would do well to analyze themselves, but it will be almost impossible for them to correct things. Because if so, where would they get their staff from? Journalists are trained and schooled in this definition of the world. And they'll still make a lot of money and get great ratings if their programming starts with and ends with the supposition that Donald Trump is an existential buffoon, but a threat to America. People will click on that and listen to that and believe that. The people who make the content mostly believe that. But I do think it's a disservice to reality and progress if that's your default orientation. So practically, as a path forward, our purveyors of fact and our describers of reality should not excuse lies, but should not lose their minds each time there is a lie. Every dire thing that they hear does not count as an indication that Donald Trump is driving us over a cliff. Most people have an interpretation of Trump as bullshitting, and to them, that does not scan as an act of unconscionable immorality that disqualifies Trump from delivering progress to them. And we know this is true because we just had an election, which is a referendum on everything I was saying. And if the media, and I'm going to do this because I can only control what I can control, and if the media doesn't take some lessons about what they're serving up versus what the citizens are actually hearkening to, they will continue slipping further into irrelevance.